was in Chicago playing with my band. I played in this band in Chicago. It was a lot of fun. And we were playing some sort of acoustic all night. Everyone gets 30 minutes. These kids were playing before us, this young sort of punk band. It was interesting because it was supposed to be acoustic bands, and these kids were in a punk band, and there they were just blowing the roof off the joint. And they had this one song, and the only intelligible lyrics to the song was this chorus. And the chorus went, "This church is not a memorial for saints. It's a hospital for sinners." So I had to know. So I walked up to this kid, he's 19 years old, and he's from the suburbs. And I'm like, "Dude, that's a fun tune. Where'd you get those lyrics?" And he said, "Well, we don't go to church or anything. I don't like church. Church sucks." But we were driving down the road, and there was this sign outside of a church. And the sign read, "This church is not a memorial to saints. It's a hospital for sinners." And he said, "And if I ever went to church, that's the church I'd want to go to."
You shook me cold. Crawl back inside your hole.
So, as usual, we're trying something a little different this time. Standing up. Stand in the place where you live. Now face north. Right. This is Busted Stuff. I'm Tripp Hudgins. First, I want to thank Jordan for the great editing job. Go back to last week's Tuesday post for Busted Stuff. Look at the edited version of everyone's presentations. These great video responses we're getting, and I'm trying to get it to a point where I can say just three. I'll pick from three. And you can't pick sometimes because, surprising me at least, you say donuts and you talk about filling the space in the middle with healing or the spirit, and then people have something they need to talk about. Pretty remarkable. You guys are really remarkable. In the progressive tradition that I come from, every book you read says don't use words like sinner because that turns people off, because it's been used in this sort of judgmental way. But if we get ourselves to a place where we understand spiritual communities as places to go, not because you're perfect, not because you get it, but expressly because you don't and you want to. You're trying to find a way to come together, not to heal because you're broken, though some of us need healing and some of us are broken, but because simply you need a place with room to grow. That a place with easy answers doesn't actually work for us. See, that's incredible to me. That would be a vital community. That gaping hole in the middle of a donut, I find, can be filled with relationships, can be filled with the spirit, if you will, incarnate in relationships. There's some musty, dusty stuff around, and we love it. But I think the only way that we're ever going to make this thing work, this busted up thing we call church, is to actually stop trying to preserve it. Is to stop trying to save it. It can't be saved. Not by us, at least, if there's salvation to be had for the church. But we can turn to one another. We can create relationships that are worthwhile, meaningful, generative, collaborative, peacemaking, love-making relationships. And churches have good days and bad days. One day you're a memorial to saints, and the next day you're a hospital for sinners. One day you're a museum, and the next day you're a place for growth. So I really want to push our communities, and listening to these video responses for people, I think I'm not the only one, that wants to get out of maintenance mode. Churches should never have investment portfolios. Your spiritual autobiography should never read like an investment portfolio or museum collection. Instead, there should be gaping holes in it. Yeah, donuts. Rob Bell. Who knew that you could put the two together and end up with something like this, really? So what is on for next week? That's a good question. You tell me. It's viewer's choice. Let me know what I'm supposed to talk about next week, and we'll get to it. This is Busted Stuff. I'm Tripp Hudgins. Thanks for watching.